though he may be. Would you join me in thanking one of the most clarion conservative voices in Washington, D.C., Congressman Steve King? It is a joy to be in Newton with you all. It's wonderful for Karen and I to be with you. Thank you so much for coming out. We are humbled and grateful for your time today. Just a few short months ago, I accepted my party's nomination to run and serve as the next Vice President of the United States of America. And we are so grateful for your support. Steve gave me a warm introduction, and probably excessively so, but he's known me well enough to know the introduction I prefer is a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order. And I want to tell you, my family and I joined this team in a heartbeat, because you have nominated a man for president who never quits, who never backs down. He is a fighter, he is a winner, and he's going to fight every day the next 4 weeks to make America great again when we elect Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States. You know, I'd like to say Donald Trump literally embodies the spirit of America. Strong, freedom-loving, independent, optimistic, and willing to fight for what he believes in. And when he takes residence in the White House, he's going to fight every day for the American people. His only special interest will be you and a more prosperous and a more secure future for the people of this country. We saw that leadership on Sunday night when Donald Trump won the debate hands down. You know, I like to say it takes a big man to know when you're wrong, to admit it, to apologize, and Donald Trump did just that this last weekend. Last Sunday night, my running mate showed humility. He showed the American people what was in his heart. And then he fought back and turned the focus to the choice that we face, because this election is not so much a choice between two people, it is a choice between two futures. And let me be clear, I choose a stronger America. I choose a more prosperous America. I choose an America that respects our Constitution and our highest ideals. And so I choose to stand with Donald Trump and every American who believes we can and we will make America great again. You know, it really is amazing at the very moment that all of America is crying out for something new and different. The other party has literally answered with a stale agenda and the most predictable of names. I mean, at a time that Republicans and independents and Democrats are crying out for change. I mean, more than 7 out of 10 Americans believe that this country is headed in the wrong direction. The other party has literally nominated someone who personifies the failed status quo in Washington, D.C. It really is amazing. And I don't know if you heard the latest news today, but this avalanche of emails and disclosures has just continued today. And if you haven't heard about it, we learned through a WikiLeaks email release today that the Obama Department of Justice was actually in communication with Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign while she was under investigation for having a private server. We learned again today that in a 2013 speech in Toronto to a business organization, she may well have released classified information about the takedown of Osama bin Laden at a paid speech in Canada. Now remember that the man who shot Osama bin Laden was called out for having classified information in the book that he wrote, and he had to turn over nearly $7 million back to the government in royalties. And we find out today that that Hillary Clinton may have revealed classified information in a paid speech in Canada. You know, it really is extraordinary when you think about it. While Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State of the United States of America, she had a private foundation that accepted millions of dollars in contributions from foreign governments and foreign donors, and then had a private server between those two operations. And when it was discovered that she had a private server, she used high technology and hammers to destroy evidence and keep it from the American people. In excerpts of speeches that came out on Friday, when the national media was busy talking about other things, we learned that Hillary Clinton actually gave a speech at a Brazilian bank where she said her, quote, dream is a hemisphere common market with open trade and open borders, close quote. That was in a speech. She also gave another speech in Canada where she said that she wanted health care, quote, like you have here in Canada. And then, most striking of all, she said that to be, quote, successful politically, and this is from a speech, that you have to have, quote, both a public and private position. Now, when she was asked about that in the debate the other night, did you see how she answered? She gave us a long lecture about Abraham Lincoln. Well, as a member of the party of Lincoln, I would really prefer if dishonest Hillary did not associate herself with honest Abe anymore. I mean, the truth of the matter is the American people remember a day when we had a president in Washington who erased 18.5 minutes and they ran him out of town. Remember? Well, Hillary Clinton actually used high technology to erase nearly 18,000 emails. Men and women, that doesn't sound like politics. That sounds like obstruction. And the American people are sick and tired of it. Because despite all the things that happen in the course of a campaign, the truth is this election's about big things. So let me just say to you from the outset, for the sake of our security, for the sake of our prosperity, for the sake of that Supreme Court of the United States, and for the sake of preserving the principle that no one is above the law, we must ensure that Hillary Clinton is never elected president of the United States of America. It's that important. Because this election is about big things. It's about big things. I mean, we've got to talk about those first things first, because men and women, that's about the fundamental expectation the American people want. That we want government that reflects honesty and integrity. But the truth is, in this election, the kitchen table issues, the ones that keep the American people up at night, are where we also have to focus. They have to do with security and prosperity and the highest court in the land. Let's start on the security front. I don't know if you know this, but you know today that in the 7.5 years of Barack Obama and the leadership Hillary Clinton wants to continue, our Army has the lowest troop level since 1940. Our Navy has the smallest numbers of ships since 1916. Our Marine Corps is down to 23 battalions, down from 36 that our warfighters say that they need to defend our nation. And the Air Force down to about 1,100 fighter aircraft and bombers. And the average age of those aircraft is 27 years. That's older than most of the men and women that we train to fly them, and that fly them bravely to this day. It truly is extraordinary. Hollowing out our military in a direction and a policy that Hillary Clinton is committed to has got to come to an end. For America to be safe, America must be strong. And when he becomes President of the United States, Donald Trump will rebuild our military. He will restore the arsenal of democracy. We will provide our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines with the resources and the training that they need and deserve to protect our families and come home safe to theirs. It's about peace through strength. It was a lesson that Ronald Reagan taught us many years ago. Someone who first came to national prominence right here in Iowa, and about a week ago in Farmville, Virginia. And I mean, not just because he interrupted me so many times. It was extraordinary to hear him actually boasting of her record on foreign affairs. So let's talk about that record, okay? Because we don't have to speculate. I mean, the truth of the matter is it was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama who in 2012, and we created a vacuum in which the barbarous terrorist organization ISIS was able to form and overrun vast areas that had been hard won by the American soldier at enormous sacrifice. You know, Congressman King and I have traveled downrange more than once to visit our soldiers in harm's way. More poignantly than that, I've stood quietly in Indiana by the graveside of our heroes who went home to be with the Lord instead of coming home to be with their families. And it breaks my heart to see the way this administration and Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State squandered the hard-fought gains of the American soldier in Iraq. I know I stand here today in the presence of men and women who have worn the uniform of the United States. Would you just mind raising your hand or standing up if you can? Just give us a chance to thank you one more time. Our veterans, would you please? Thank you for your service to the nation. Thank you for what you wrought for this nation in your time. You know, it was also Hillary Clinton who initiated the disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. Congressman King will tell you that back in the day, we worked on a bipartisan basis in Congress to economically isolate Iran. The policy of the United States of America was that Iran could never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world. And we passed the most punitive economic sanctions in American history on Iran. And they were working. It would be just a few short years ago. Remember the Green Revolution in the streets of Tehran? A younger generation rising up for change away from the radical mullahs and the theocracy in Iran that was quickly put down as this administration hesitated to support those people in the streets of Iran. But under this administration, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama actually negotiated a deal that delivered $150 billion to the radical mullahs in Iran, and it only delayed their nuclear ambitions. Once the restrictions come off, there'll be nothing to prevent Iran from obtaining a usable nuclear weapon. And the worst of it was on the very day that 4 American hostages were released, this administration approved, with Hillary Clinton's strong support, the delivery of $400 million in cash on a pallet as a ransom payment, and then told us that it wasn't a ransom. Well, let me tell you, men and women here in Iowa, the Iranians know it was a ransom. And I'll make you a promise. When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we won't be paying ransom to terror-sponsoring states. They'll be paying a price. They'll be paying a price if they threaten or detain or harm the American people. And lastly, we're talking about her record now. It was Hillary Clinton and her State Department that had jurisdiction over diplomatic facilities in Libya, particularly in a place called Benghazi. You remember those television commercials? Hillary Clinton said, you want to know who's there when the call comes in at 3 in the morning. Well, it didn't come in at 3 in the morning, folks. It came in around dinner hour, Eastern time. And it was Hillary Clinton and her State Department that left Americans in harm's way. And after 4 Americans fell, she told the families of the fallen at Dover Air Force Base when the remains arrived, she told them it was because of a filmmaker in Florida. Even though, thanks to the good work that Congress did, we found that an email to her daughter the night of the attack described it as an Al-Qaeda-style terrorist attack. When she was questioned about it before the Senate, we all know what she said. Quote, what difference at this point does it make? Well, men and women of Iowa, let me say to you, as the proud father of a United States Marine who we just said goodbye to this morning as he went to his latest assignment. Anybody that said that, anybody that did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Ever. We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. The American people know that for the world to be safe, for America to be safe, America needs to lead on the world stage with American strength, and that begins the day that Donald Trump is inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States. That's probably why more than 160 generals and admirals retired, and 17 Medal of Honor winners have endorsed Donald Trump to be the next Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of this country. So it's about security. Security on the world stage, but it's also about safety at home. You know, it's been a very challenging time for a particular group that wears the uniform across this country. My uncle was a cop, career cop, in Chicago, Illinois. There's an awful lot of police officers who are here with us today. Would you just mind showing these law enforcement officers, these men and women, how much we appreciate the job that they do for us each and every day? You know, as a chief law enforcement officer of the United States, a President Donald Trump, I promise you, will support law enforcement at every level. We will provide the resources and the tools that they need to do their job to protect our families and go home safe to theirs, and we will restore law and order to every city and every community in the land. That's probably why the 330,000 men and women who make up the largest police officers union in America, the Fraternal Order of Police, endorsed Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. So it's about security, but it's also about prosperity. And I know I stand here in Newton, and I don't have to talk to you about the challenges the community faces when companies pull up stakes and leave. We had that happen in the Hoosier State earlier this year when Carrier, a company that had been in Indiana for decades, just like Maytag had been here in Newton, a company had been there for decades, suddenly and without notice just announced they were pulling up stakes and heading to Mexico. And I called the executives from Carrier into my office at the State House in Indianapolis, and I asked them, why are you leaving Indiana? I mean, I'm admittedly biased, but I always tell people, if you can't make it profitably in Indiana, you can't make it profitably anywhere. I mean, truthfully, we got a great manufacturing environment in the Hoosier State. And they said to me, frankly, he said 2 things I'll never forget. They said, Mike, it's nothing to do with the Hoosier State. Indiana's a great right-to-work state. We're a low-tax state. I mean, I compete every day with Governor Terry Branstad. It's just who's got a better conservative record here. They said, we love the Indiana record, but they said, number one, all of our competitors are already in Mexico. And they said, number 2, the avalanche of regulations coming out of Washington, D.C. have just caused us to say, enough is enough. In fact, we're in the weakest economic recovery from the Great Depression. The lowest labor participation rate since the 1970s. Nearly 4 million more Americans are living in poverty today. Millions more living in poverty today than the day Barack Obama became president of the United States. And despite the heartbreak in Indiana, the heartbreak you all experienced here in Newton, Hillary Clinton wants to continue all the same policies. I mean, it really is pretty amazing if you think about it. Sometimes people like to say, and it's true, that she's essentially running for a third Obama term, as bad as that sounds. I actually think a truer statement is that she wants to do more of the same. Hillary Clinton wants to raise taxes by $1 trillion. She wants to expand government regulation. She wants to increase spending by $2 trillion. She wants to build on Obamacare and continue to support the same kind of policies that have been stifling the American economy. I mean, the truth of the matter is, the other side tells us pretty regularly that this is the best that we can do. But people here in Iowa, you know, just like we do in Indiana, it's not the best we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to put common sense, conservative principles into practice, and we're going to get Iowa working again, and we're going to get America working again. Here's how it's going to go. We're going to do it. Couple of basic principles. Where they want to raise taxes, we're going to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. We're going to repeal death taxes once and for all, and we're going to lower the business taxes in America so that companies in Iowa can compete and keep jobs here in Iowa instead of seeing them going overseas. And because regulation is a form of taxation, on day one of a Trump-Pence administration, Donald Trump's going to sign a moratorium on any new federal red tape, and he's going to repeal every single Obama executive order that is stifling jobs and growth in this economy. Every one of them. And when it comes to energy, on day one of a Trump-Pence administration, the war on coal comes to a crashing halt. And we are going to develop the resources of this land, our traditional fuels, our renewable fuels. We're going to have an all-of-the-above energy strategy that fuels an American recovery. And when Donald Trump becomes negotiator-in-chief. You with me on that? You getting there? I mean, look, I believe trade means jobs. Exports in agriculture and in manufacturing support jobs here in Iowa and all across America. Imports result in low-cost goods. But under Donald Trump, we're going to make sure that trade means American jobs. We're going to negotiate trade deals that put the American worker first. We're going to renegotiate NAFTA. We're going to get out of TPP, and we're going to hold our trading partners accountable for the promises they make to the American people. If you want access to the most powerful economy in the world, you're going to do a deal, and you're going to keep it under Donald Trump. So it's about tax reform, regulatory reform, trade reform, and energy reform. And it's also about prying off the back of the American economy, that which Bill Clinton just called the craziest thing in the world. Did you hear about that? I mean, sometimes even with the Clintons, truth happens. And I know, Congressman King, I know Congress convenes before the inauguration, a couple of weeks. So roll your sleeves up so that on the day that Donald Trump arrives in the White House, we can repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel and replace it with the kind of health care reform that lowers the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government. So it's about security. It's about prosperity. But it's also about the fact that it seems like under this last administration, there's no aspect of our lives too small for this administration to supervise. You ever notice that? There's no provision of the Constitution too large for them to ignore. And I want to tell you here in Iowa, Steve mentioned it before. The importance of everything that we've said so far may well pale in comparison to the magnitude of this one issue. We're electing a president for the next 4 years. But that president will probably set the course and direction of the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40 years. And we better think long and hard about that. Elect Hillary Clinton, you better get used to more unelected judges using unaccountable power to take unconstitutional actions, legislating from the bench. You heard her in that debate the other night, a wish list of things that she wants to make sure that her court does. Elect Donald Trump as President of the United States, I promise you, you will have jurists appointed to the Supreme Court and every court in the land who will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. In the tradition of the late and great Justice Antonin Scalia, we will strictly adhere to the Constitution and protect the God-given liberties that are enshrined there. So let me just say, for the sake of the rule of law, if you cherish the sanctity of life, if you cherish the Second Amendment to the Constitution and the right to keep and bear arms, we must ensure that the next president to make appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States of America will be President Donald Trump. So it's about security and prosperity, and it's about the highest court in the land. And as I slide to the side of the podium here, I'm going to take a few of your questions in the time that we have remaining. But let me at least leave you with one other thought, because I want you to go tell somebody, okay? I mean, Iowa, you're used to always playing a huge role in our nation's destiny in national campaigns. We in Indiana just watch Iowa from afar and say, what's a caucus? We don't even know what that is. We marvel at it. We marvel at the way the citizens of Iowa take ownership of the responsibility that you have and hold these candidates accountable. But right now, with just 4 weeks left in this campaign, I hope you have a similar burden on your heart. I want you to go tell somebody. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I get up every day, I got to like turn the television on with a stick. Y'all know what I'm talking about? I mean, I don't know what's going to be on there any given day. And it's just about, you know, ever since I joined this campaign, it's been obvious to me. It's 2-on-1 every day with the media doing half of Hillary Clinton's work for her. But the amazing thing is, Donald Trump is winning hearts and minds every day. And it's because the American people are talking to each other. So I want you to leave here today, and I want you to talk about it. Talk about that email stuff. I mean, just go look at it. It's bursting all across. I'm sure it'll be the 7th or 8th item on the evening news tonight. Okay, really. But you can find it. Go find it. Talk to people about what's happening in the world. The rise of radical Islamic terrorism, what's happened in the wake of weak and feckless leadership on the world stage. Talk to them about this economy and that we can do better, but we've got to change course and we've got to change leadership. And talk to them about that court. Talk to them about those liberties. But talk to them about one other thing, if you would. And that is, in these divided times, where it seems like, you know, it seems like we're almost to the point where the evening news is going to have two people doing the weather just to argue about it. Because there's always a pro and con on everything, isn't there, anymore? I want to tell you, Donald Trump and I really do believe that there will always be more that unites us in these United States of America than will ever divide the good and great people of this nation. I believe it, and he believes it. And it has to do with faith. I think it has to do with faith. Faith in God and faith in the American people. You know, let me tell you, I just got to know Donald Trump in the last 3 months. We actually spent some time together as a family, didn't we, dear? We flew out when he was considering a long list of extraordinary people, men and women, for this position. And we met them as a family, and the Pences are a family. To know the Trumps is to know a family. To know the Pences is to know a family. But one of the things we found out is there's things we shared. His grandfather immigrated to this country through Ellis Island. My grandfather immigrated to this country from Ireland when he was about my son's age. His dad was a self-made man who built a business up from nothing and lived the American dream and raised a strong family. My dad worked in a gas station company and built up a small business in a small town in rural Indiana. Donald Trump and I were both raised to believe that to whom much is given, much will be required. And so for him, that meant that the kid from Queens went to Manhattan Island, right? And built the big buildings to the skies. For me, it was a calling into public service. I mean, I always tell people, other than a whole lot of zeros, Donald Trump and I have a lot in common. I mean, a lot. Out the door. And that's this. Yeah. And that's this. It's a belief in the American dream. Kids, the American dream, it's not a slogan, it's the real thing. It's the idea that here in America, anybody can be anybody. If you study hard, if you work hard, if you play by the rules, if you look after your neighbors, that you can live out your dreams in this nation. And I want to tell you, as you leave here today and you go tell your neighbors and friends across a backyard fence, in the city and on the farm, at worship or at work about this election, about the cost of this election, lay out the choice in this election, absolutely. But I also want you to tell them that if Donald Trump and Mike Pence make it to the White House, we're going to work every day with all our hearts to restore and revive the American dream for every American, regardless of race or creed or color or gender or area code or income. We're going to bring the American dream back to life by putting the time-honored conservative principles into practice and unleashing the boundless potential of the American people. We're going to do it. And lastly, it's not just faith in the American dream, but it's the other kind of faith. And I would encourage you, if you're inclined to do as the Pence family does from time to time, to bow the head and bend the knee. It'd be a good time to pray for this country in the next 4 weeks. I mean, honestly. And I mean just pray for America. Pray that America will once again stand tall, stand strong. The last best hope of earth. That's what Abraham Lincoln called it. It's still true. That beacon of hope and freedom. And so I encourage you, remember, what's been true for thousands of years is still true today. That if his people, who are called by his name, will humble themselves and pray, he will hear from heaven, and he, as he's always done before, he will heal our land. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, let me thank you for letting me get that off my chest. But I really do hope. I hope you leave here today. I hope you go tell somebody. Tell them what the choice is. But also, I hope you tell them that aspirational goal. That I truly do believe that if all of us in Iowa, if all of us across this country do all that we can, we're going to elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States, and we're going to make America great again. I believe it. So, happy to do it. We've got some of our young people. Slip your hand in the air. I'd love it if you shared your first name and we got some time together. Slide down here. Come on down here. We got a few in the front. How about this young lady right in front of the camera? He's coming your way. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Lonnie.
Hi, Lonnie.
And I live in Des Moines, Iowa.
Hi, Lonnie. Thanks for coming over.
Yeah, my question is, are you aware that Bashar of Syria, who is a Shiite Muslim, that he is protecting the Syrian Christians? And also, are you aware that Putin, who used to be a communist, is now a Christian? And one of the reasons he is in Syria is also to protect the Christian Syrians there. And 2/3 of the Russians have become Christians again.
Well, I hadn't heard that. Hadn't heard that. What I can tell you is the whole situation in Syria is an extraordinary humanitarian disaster. And it's important to remember with regard to Hillary Clinton. With regard to Hillary Clinton, she said her reset with Russia was her number one diplomatic goal when she became Secretary of State. Remember? Number one. Pressed a little button at a press conference. Okay? Then Russia invaded Ukraine. Took over Crimea. Now they've built an alliance with, a military alliance with the Assad regime in Syria. They have new military relationships with Iran. And the new and renewed Russian aggression is all evidence of the failed leadership of Hillary Clinton. And what I will tell you is when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we're going to establish safe zones so people can get out of harm's way in places like Aleppo, and we're going to marshal the resources of our country to go into Syria and hunt down and destroy ISIS at its source so that it can no longer inspire and threaten our people. We're going to focus on ISIS. How about right over here? Somebody right here. This gentleman right here. He's coming here. I don't think Michael needs a mic.
I'm a retired sergeant.
Hey, Sarge.
Two things.
Thanks for your service to the country, Sarge. It's great to have you.
Thank you for saying so. Two quick items. When I was a boy, my mother taught me that when a man and a woman meet, the woman puts her hands out first to shake hands. Hillary did not, so Donald Trump, being the gentleman that he is, did not put out his hand. That's the first one. The second thing is, that's just good etiquette. The second thing, and more importantly, the United States spends a little over $7,000 per veteran per year. We spend over $40,000, between 40 and 50, for everybody that's on welfare. Now, being an old retired sergeant, I think people who've gone out and served their country deserve more than somebody that just sat around and gotten nothing. Can I ask a promise from you today that you will work when you are elected with the Congress to flip that imbalance?
Well, Sarge, so how long were you in, Michael?
23 and a half years.
Give it up for that. That's incredible. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership. I was trembling to hear your voice, so you still got it. You still got it, Sarge. Let me speak to this larger issue because it's such an important one. I mean, it has been appalling to see the record of this administration at the VA, and it's still going on. It's still going on. I mean, the very idea that men and women who put on the uniform of the United States of America and were able to come home safe would lose their lives waiting for health care from the VA is totally unacceptable, and it's going to end the day that Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. Sarge, I want you to look at it. First speech I attended with Donald Trump was at the VFW. And he laid out, I think it was a 10-point plan to totally overhaul the VA. First, with executive leadership. We're going to clear out all the personnel at the VA that have failed the American people. We're going to hold people accountable. And nobody's been held accountable. We're going to provide the resources that we need for world-class. And if I can take issue with just a little bit of what your analogy was there. Let's be very clear. A lot of people think VA benefits are an entitlement. Donald Trump and I don't. We think VA benefits are part of the ongoing compensation that is owed to men and women who put on the uniform of the United States of America and counted our lives as more valuable than theirs. It's a mindset. It's a completely different mindset. And lastly, when you take a look at that speech, go online, you can see VFW Trump, you'll find it very, very easily. Take a look at it. It's not only about personnel, it's not only about working with Congressman Steve King and others to make sure there's resources, but at the end of the day, we're going to do this. if that veteran is in the waiting room and they can't get real-time access to world-class health care, a President Donald Trump will make it possible for them to go across the street in real time and get private health care at the taxpayer expense. We're going to do it. No more of this waiting. No more of this waiting for our veterans. Okay, let's slide up this way here real quick. Hi, right there.
My name is Rhonda.
Rhonda?
And I'm on social media every day, all day, nonstop.
Yeah,
since
so am I.
Since last June.
I mean, not me. I mean,
No, pushing Trump. And one of the biggest things I can tell you that a lot of us are scared of is this voter fraud. There's a lot of us that are out here saying that we go to vote, we're going to wear red. Our lives depend on this election. Our kids' futures depend on this election. And I will tell you, just for me, and I don't want this to happen, but I will tell you, for me personally, if Hillary Clinton gets in, I'm ready for a revolution because we can't have her in.
Yeah, you don't say
But
that.
I'm just saying it. No, I'm like Trump. Am I do I not speak for people here? Am I not saying the truth, guys? Come on.
Yeah, there's a revolution coming on November the 8th. I promise you. There's.
What are we going to do to safeguard our votes? Because we've seen how the Democratic Party is just crooked.
Well, look, I'll tell you. Number one, it's elections are administered at the state level. They are. And I'll tell you, in the state of Indiana right now, we got a pretty vigorous investigation into voter fraud going on right now. And in the state of Indiana, and I encourage you here in Iowa, everybody let's be sure, whether it's Secretary of State or whoever, let's make sure that our elected officials are upholding the principle of one person, one vote. And the best antidote to that is to be involved in the election process. If you are concerned about voter integrity and you haven't signed up to be a poll watcher, to volunteer at a polling place, to be a part of the integrity of that process, then you need to do it. Because I truly do believe that the right to vote is a sacred right that was won and was protected by these men and women in uniform. And for our part, we defend it by maintaining the integrity of the system. But make no mistake about it, I honestly believe a great day is coming on November the 8th. I really do. It's incredible. And Rhonda, be encouraged. Be encouraged. Because the American people recognize this election, this isn't a choice. Sometimes, I don't know, but I'm sure this never happens in Iowa, but sometimes there's not a dime's worth of difference between them. Okay, maybe it does. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got a candidate in one party, and it's about they'll get you this far, and the other candidate probably get you that far, and really isn't that much difference. This is not such an election. I mean, men and women, this is whether we're going to go down the hill, continue down a hill to a weaker America at home and abroad, a weaker American military, apologizing and retreating on the world stage to a weakened and stifled American economy under ever higher taxes, ever burdened regulations, and walking away from our most cherished constitutional principles, or whether we're going to stop, plant our feet, and march back up the hill to a stronger America at home and abroad, a more prosperous America, an America that respects our Constitution. And I know what the American people are going to choose. I really do. I know it in my heart. But let's all not take anything for granted. How about, right? We got this one here?
Pence, we have time for one more
All
question.
right, how about this? Been standing for.
First, I want to say, you and Steve King just got my respect for not jumping, bailing out on Donald Trump. That shows a person's character. Now, second, what'd we go into Libya for? Gaddafi gave up his nukes. There was no reason to go in there. Then we went and had Benghazi. And why hasn't Hillary apologized to those Gold Star families like they jumped to Donald Trump about King? Why didn't she apologize to him? She lied to him. Then she attacked him when they said she lied to him. We do not need her in there no more. So, and I thank you and Steve King. You got my admiration.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words, and I'm taking you on the road. You know, Hillary Clinton in Libya, that was her whole thing. And I just think, you know, people say, well, Benghazi was a long time ago. Come on. Come on. The phone call came. And I want to tell you, thanks to the good work that Steve King and other, give him another round of applause before he slips out. Steve. He's such a great guy. But if you watch that movie 13 Hours, you might have the impression that we didn't send help for 13 hours. We never sent help. We never sent help. Okay? And I got to tell you, the Sarge is sitting here. He'll tell you, they're apologists for this administration and for Hillary Clinton when she was in the State Department that said, well, we wouldn't have time to get there. How did they know? I mean, I got to tell you what, the American military can do incredible things. When you hear Americans are in harm's way, when Donald Trump is president, we're going to be wheels up. And we're going to be rolling to get to those Americans and get them out of harm's way. We're not going to be making excuses and having meetings. I mean, you make some wonderful points, and God bless you for it, and thank you for your kind words. But I'll leave you with this. We're going to slip out, and I don't know where we're going next. I think we're going to Virginia, aren't we? By the way, this is my wife, Karen Pence. I didn't properly introduce her. She's going to be a great second lady of the United States of America. I promise you that. She's incredible. Thank you. And that girl sitting next to her is actually our daughter who's babysitting mom and dad this fall. But she actually graduated college and has a job, which is really pretty amazing. That's Charlotte. So, but I want you to go tell somebody. Here's my challenge to you folks. Number one, I'm very encouraged by your kindness and your support. Okay, I'll go to the little guy. He and I see each other all the time. Yeah, come back down. We got to hear from my favorite guy. He is. He's my buddy. But seriously, people, we got, Rhonda over here touched my heart. I mean, we have got to use every day in the next 4 weeks. Talk to your neighbors and friends. Tell them what this is about. Reach far beyond Newton, okay? I mean, it's extraordinary to think about. I mean, you've got family across Iowa. You've got friends across this country, business associates, people that you know from being involved in your worship community. But reach out to people and just tell them. Tell them what the stakes are in this election. And tell them there is only one choice. If you believe in change in this country, if you think we need to change the direction and have America stronger at home and abroad, standing on our constitutional principles, then you just have to tell your neighbors and friends that change only comes, that change is only on the ballot when we elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States. But if you do all you can, like it all depended on you, and if you take a little bit more of our advice and pray, because we know who it all really does depend on. And I really do believe we've got a great day coming. We've got a great day coming on November 8th. Okay. Hey, champ, good to see you.
You know who I am.
I know who you are. This is my buddy. Where's your home? Remind me again.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska. It's a great kid. Okay. What's your question?
Do you want Flower and Poon to go into America?
Do I want what?
Flower and Poon to go into America?
No. No, I want Donald Trump to go to the White House.
I knew that.
I never know what he's going to say, but I love him. He's a great kid. Thanks, everybody. Listen, God bless you. God bless Iowa. Let's go get this done.